had something called a shade tree commission. And just like the zoning commission, you had to appear before the shade tree commission if you were going to make any massive change. Sarah, yeah.
Yeah, so I think, in order to help this move along, we should probably, as we're thinking about our goals, think about which type of ordinance we want to start with. Some of them are a little bit easier, what we already have and moving forward. So as Kristen said, we have to try to think of what type of ordinance we want. So I would suggest, either this meeting or next meeting, whatever we think of our goals, we do a goal planning exercise. We take a look at the existing ordinances and then pick one to concentrate on. That's our most important. And then are we allowed to do any of this stuff offline, or it has to all be online, or can we individually work on a ordinance and then propose it at the next meeting?
Can we have a subcommittee of a subcommittee?
No, I mean, just like individually take it home, review it all, and then we come back with a proposal.
I think individually, any of us could review something and come back to the meeting and say, here's what I found out.
So maybe we assign some homework and everyone takes a look at a different ordinance or whatever, and we bring it back to the group. Yeah. And then we try to vote on what we think our number one goal would be, and we just take a stab at working on one at a time as they're prioritized.
Yeah, if you could send out the existing town ordinance and then any of the other suggested towns that you thought were good, we could all look at them and do as Sarah suggested.
Greg, are you familiar with ordinances that would that give us some kind of a guidance? I'm not, sort of a map for or maybe specifically to Tree City USA. What are they looking for?
Well, ordinance they vary so much. But there are a lot of resources like fact sheets and example type ordinances. The sort of model you propose, Portsmouth has basically a shade tree committee, and where people appear before them when they want to remove a tree that the city has control of, but of course it doesn't have anything to do with private trees. No. But I could probably send you some resources that might be helpful for drafting or updating an ordinance.
I do have some email addresses for some of the folks on that Portsmouth committee. They have two arborists who I guess are terrific.
Yeah, and AJ is part of that committee as well, so you may want to talk to AJ.
They invited me. They said I could come to a meeting. Their meetings are like 6:45, 7 a.m. I'm like, oh.
But many towns in New Hampshire really don't have tree ordinances.
Yeah, I know. I would think that we want to stay within, at least to start with, in the public realm. I can't imagine trying to do private, ordinances on private property trees. Sounds like opening a hornet's nest. So
yeah, I'm not a resident of Exeter, but I would oppose that in my town. To have town control of private trees.
Yeah,
we have a lot to start with because the town has a lot of trees, and we need to diversify the kinds. There's a lot of goals here that we can think about and add to.
All right, let's say. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sarah.
No, just to add, possibly a shade tree, review committee is something to work towards if we feel like that's the way the town wants to go. But I'm certain we could come up with some great ordinances and goals, that are working in parallel. If you want to go with the shade tree committee, just to get it up and running. But I would start with some ordinances first and figure out our priorities.
And you already have a tree warden, so Jay could do some of that. I'll call it, I wouldn't say enforcement, but he could make some of those decisions.
Yeah. Well, I do have to say that Jay has been very, very proactive in terms of, not only helping us out to get things going, but to really, the minute I said that there was something wrong with that tree, he was all over it. And he's got two other guys that do, if you were there for the planting at Lincoln Street School, who've worked with him, he's really mentored, and they're very knowledgeable and interested and kind of gung-ho. So I think he's got a crew that cares about trees and wants to do what's right. So I think we have a huge asset there. So that's a plus. But I think this would be something for us to work toward for our next meeting, and say, okay, everybody, if you can locate either through email or through town research or any other suggestion that Sarah or anybody else might be able to throw out, Greg, anybody, just sort of send it out to the committee, and maybe we should find a way to say, okay, I'm going to work on this one. So we don't have 2 or 3 people working on the same thing. And I know I'll be a little involved in this tree plantings at the park for September. So I can do a bit on that. And I think, if we all take a chunk of it, we should be able to make at least a start at what our goal is, to say, these are our goals, and here's how we'd like to meet them. And, I can check with AJ about what does the Tree Committee USA folks, what are they looking for when, our tree ordinance submission was okay, but, not great. What would they hope that we would be able to accomplish? Kristen, yeah.
I think early on, before this committee became kind of substantiated with people, there was a list from the Tree City USA of ordinance requirements. It's a pretty succinct list of what it needs to include.
Yeah.
I have that somewhere in my files and can send it around.
Yeah, I think I do too. Sarah, does Unitil per se have some guidelines that you folks work under when it comes to tree requirements and ordinances, or are they specific to utility lines?
With the presence of utility lines, like a lot of different towns have some different regulations, like, they might have to go before the Board of Selectmen, or if it's a scenic road and things like that. So we follow all the individual towns' requirements. Sometimes there's, if they have pruning or removal guidelines, there's some language in there for like hazardous trees, and you just get the approval from the tree warden. So basically we would submit, this tree is looking dangerous, needs to be removed. It's a threat to the power lines and reliability of power. And then the tree warden, would take a look at it and either approve or suggest other alternatives. So there's a lot of cooperation between the town and the utility when trees are present around the power lines, because they're in the town right away.
Maybe if you, would sort of, in your experience, say, this was a town that really did it right, that made it clear that we understood what our responsibilities were and what we had to do to, like if there's some couple of towns that just stood out to you, that would be helpful to know.
I mean, the best thing that's most helpful is when there's a clear process and a clear person making a decision. The hardest time we have is when it's kind of up in the air who's making the decision, whether it's the committee or the tree warden. That's always the hardest. So if you say these people are the ones making the decision, then it's a lot easier. You know who to present the material to. You can reach back out to them, and things move along better. So that would be my recommendation. Whatever we decide on, we make it pretty clear about, what the process is and the expectations and who's reviewing and timeframes and things like that.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, because we can work with whatever the town desires, but just knowing the process and making it clear is the easiest. Yep.
Decisions by committee are always a challenge. All right, unless anyone has any other additional issues that they would like to bring up, what I like to do is sort of say, okay, let's see when we could meet, and then what do we hope to accomplish, for the next meeting, and when do we see, do we want to set a timeline for when we might have to have something ready? I'll need to get some more information from AJ about deadlines. I think the other ingredients for Tree City USA, they had to do with volunteer hours and dollars spent and events, occurred. I think if everybody, throws together whatever volunteer hours you've done, I tried to write stuff down. I don't always write it down, but I don't think we'd have any trouble coming up with a number of volunteer hours. So those ingredients are not terribly difficult. So our biggest challenge, I think, is writing a better tree ordinance submission and knowing when we need to get that in. But say it needs to be in by December, but we'd like to know, so August, September, maybe October should be the amount of time we have to work on this to get something together and be able to put it in writing so that it's clear enough and someone says, okay, I think I get what they're trying to do. Whether the actual ordinance that we propose needs to be approved by the town, or is it something that we are proposing to suggest to the town? That's something I'll have to find out. Kristen, do you have any idea that?
Yeah, so town ordinances are adopted by the select board. So we need to build in enough time for the select board to review and adopt the ordinance.
Right. So knowing how challenging time slots for select board meetings are, if it would be ideal if we had something for a select board meeting, let's say in October, for them to look at, because they may not just look at it and say, okay, looks great, yes. They may need more time. I don't know. How often do ordinances get changed or introduced?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but I think it takes 2 readings.
Yeah, I do remember that. You have to read it once and then they
I don't know if our select board has a time of year that they consider ordinance changes so that they're all consolidated into a meeting or not. I can find that out though.
Yeah, okay. All right, we'll check on that and that will help to give us our time frame, if that's what we're aiming to do, is to get it approved by the select board, which would be ideal. But we'd also want to have it be the best that it can be. So,
yeah, I would think you could take the time you need to write it well, and not worry about just meeting the requirements of Tree City USA, because I think you have already. So I wouldn't feel the need to rush on that account.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my point. We did get it, and we weren't just handed it. So we should take the time to make it what we want it to be, meet our goals, and fit through the process of the select board and not try to rush it through or jam it through.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, well, let's say we're going to spend the next month or two doing some research, looking at what's out there. And Sarah, if you have anything you can send around, Greg as well. And I know that I think we all had some information on those early ordinances from Tree City USA that were given to us at a meeting. So I'll dig through my notebook and pull them out. And I can send around some of the Portsmouth Tree Commission contacts if you don't have them. Because there's some good people there. I haven't spoken with the arborists there, but I've spoken with some people connected to the committee, and they said these guys are terrific. So, Sarah, do you know some of them?
I probably know all of them. I'm not sure who they are, but I know lots of Portsmouth arborists. Yeah. Okay, well, why don't I do that? Everybody, if anybody comes up with something, says, oh, we forgot that this is a contact or this is a resource, feel free to send it around, share it with everybody. And do we want to try and see if we can set a meeting for sometime in August? Yes.
Maybe towards the end of August, since we're already at the end of July.
I'll be away the last 2 weeks in August, but since we're having Zoom meetings, that doesn't preclude my participation.
I know, look at Sarah. Are you someplace cooler, Sarah? Can you dip your toe in the water anywhere?
I am. I can look outside and see the lake.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, let's just arbitrarily say, let's try for Thursday, the 27th at the same time. What does that look like for everybody?
We have an intern for Nature Groupie that week, so I cannot do that week. But don't let that hold you up.
I just have a question about, there was a person that was going to be hired that was a UNH intern to review the tree inventory or something. I vaguely remember something from Dave, somebody, not by us. It was by the Conservation Commission, I think.
It was a greenhouse gas inventory through Dave.
Through Dave, yeah.
Because I have one, a UNH fellow as well, and working on a greenhouse gas. So I've worked with Dave and their fellow, but it's not working on a tree inventory. I don't know if there was another project or not.
I think it was a sustainability,
sustainability committee thing. Is that so?
Yeah,
that is.
And
happening?
they were doing an energy study or something.
Oh, okay.
So our dream.
It's a greenhouse gas emissions inventory.
Yes. Right.
Okay.
Yep.
But Jay Perkins was able to secure an intern to help do an inventory, a straight tree inventory. It didn't get far beyond the downtown area, but we do have that document.
But not this summer. They didn't update it.
No, that was in 2017.
2017. That's the one I remember.
We had hoped that we could have that updated.
Yeah, that's a good goal going forward, is to update that inventory.
Yeah, so the interns are available, I guess.
That's true too.
We had some issues working with interns this summer, but we might be able to help you out next summer with some students.
All right. All right. I'm going to remember that. Thanks, Greg. All right, unless anybody has anything else, I think we don't need to go a full hour here. You can all go have a cup of coffee and enjoy the day. We'll try the 27th. If something comes up and it doesn't work for more people, we can make some adjustments. I'll check with Jay, and I know that Kevin and Jen were not able to be here, so maybe they'll be able to make that meeting. So I thank you all for joining, and for me, getting up, and I can't imagine doing a meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning. But
Thank you all.
Going for a walk at 7 in the morning, maybe. Oh, okay. All right. Well, everybody keep cool, and thank you all very much. And thanks, Bob, for helping set another meeting up for